From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I'm Edgar Cedillo in Madison County. FWP is set to have a work session regarding the Madison River. I'll have the details coming up.
I'm Jose George in Washington. August is supposed to be political vacation season, right? Not this year. Major political primaries taking place across the country on Tuesday. We break down what you need to know next.
Good morning, Southwest Montana, 6:30 on this Monday. Ashley Washburn alongside Chet Lehman. It looks beautiful outside, but I can promise you it's not cold.
And this is the time of day you want to be out there. So
right.
Turn the TV around, open your front window, sit out on your patio and
enjoy it while you can.
Because you're not going to want to be out there later this afternoon. Take a look at those current conditions right now. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s, 41 in West Yellowstone right now, 70 in Big Timber. Just a really pleasant morning on its way to near record high temperatures today. Warming into the mid 90s for the Bozeman area, low to mid 90s for Butte. We're talking near record high temperatures, heat advisories, red flag warnings, and all of that for today. But what does the rest of the week look like? Details of that coming up in just a couple minutes.
We will see you in a bit. 6:32 now. On hot days like the one that we're going to have today, many locals are floating the Madison River. But as MTN's Edgar Cedillo reports, use on the Madison may soon be restricted.
The use of the Madison River has been a topic of priority for the commissioners behind me at Fish, Wildlife and Parks. Now a 12-person group is set to come forward with some recommendations at an upcoming meeting.
There's a lot of public access to get on and float the river, fish, a lot of camping sites.
For Brad Palm, using the Madison is one of his favorite things, but the crowds along the Madison means he gets out on the water early.
Been busy for a long time, but we came out early today to avoid the floating rush.
A commercial use cap is supposed to take effect on January 2023. However, FWP is seeking public comment to postpone that cap, which would limit the number of fishing and guiding for each outfitters. FWP will also hear recommendations for use on the Madison River on August 4th from the Madison River Work Group.
The need to, to manage it properly and to ensure that it's used sustainably.
The recommendations are the allocation of commercial use trip to outfitters, a process to permit new outfitters on the Madison River, rule language to address all recreational use on the Madison River, including walk, wade, and rest rotation sections, and the consequences of permit violations.
Everything, all these pieces kind of fit together to manage recreation and commercial use, as well as to sustain the fishery.
Palm understands that there could be changes in the pipeline.
I know it puts a lot of stress on the river, when there's so many people on it.
In Madison County, Edgar Cedillo, MTN News.
And FWP says there will not be public comment at the work session on August 4th, but there will be public comment later in the fall. Now on to the political front. Tomorrow, high-profile elections are taking place that will provide insight into how Americans are feeling ahead of the November midterm election. Everything from abortion rights to former President Trump's influence on the Republican Party is on the line. As our Joe St. George reports, so much political activity is quite rare for the month of August.
I want to let you in on a little secret. In politics, August is a month where a lot of politicians and political reporters ditch the suit for swim trunks and head on vacation. Former President George Bush loved going to West Texas to his ranch in August. Former President Barack Obama loved Martha's Vineyard. But this August, there's actually a lot of politics going on, which means the only suit that should be worn this month for politicians and reporters is a suit that involves a tie. Let's start by circling August 2nd. It's primary day in several states, but one of the more interesting races will be in Kansas, where the first abortion-related election is taking place since the Supreme Court struck down abortion rights nationwide. Kansas voters will decide if their constitution should continue to protect abortion rights or if state officials have the power to pass new restrictions. Kansas has more registered Republicans than Democrats, but this election will show whether Democrats have convinced any conservatives to join them on this divisive issue. From Kansas, we move to Arizona, where primary battles are taking place.
Real wages are collapsing.
But even though former President Trump and former Vice President Mike Pence are not on the ballot Tuesday,
Well, hello, Arizona!
they are attracting the most attention because they're backing different candidates for governor. Trump has endorsed former television news anchor Carrie Lake. Pence is supporting Karen Taylor Robeson. The result will help answer the question, what does the future of the Republican Party look like. And we can't forget about the elections in Missouri, Michigan, and Washington State Tuesday. In Missouri, there is an open Republican primary for retiring Republican Senator Roy Blunt. And in Michigan and Washington, Republicans who voted to impeach former President Trump are fighting for their political life. The former president has made it clear he wants all of them defeated. And a little bit of political revenge will be a theme throughout the month of August. Over in Wyoming, Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach former President Trump and has led the controversial and consequential January 6th hearing, she is facing a primary. All indications is that she will lose that race. So for the moment, don't discredit the politics of August. Vacations can wait. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
I wish I could snap my finger like that and be on vacation too. The country is no stranger to calls for constitutional amendments, but the process to get them passed is extremely difficult. Newsy's Stephanie Liebergen explains why that is.
There are just two ways to amend the U.S. Constitution, but only one has ever been used. That route requires 2/3 of the House and the Senate to pass the text of the amendment and the time frame states have to approve it. Then, 3/4 of the states, 38 of them, need to approve the amendment with a straightforward yes or no vote. If that process sounds difficult, John Hudak of the Brookings Institution said it's supposed to.
The founders were successful in doing what they planned, and that was to make it very hard to amend the U.S. Constitution, and that's why hundreds of constitutional amendment proposals go nowhere every Congress.
In the past 233 years, the Constitution has been amended 27 times. The first 10, known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified in 1791, just 3.5 years after the Constitution was passed. These include some of the most well-known rights, like freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. The other 17 were approved by Congress and the states over the next 2 centuries. And in almost every case, the states approved the change in less than 5 years. The outlier is our most recent amendment, the 27th, which deals with congressional pay raises. It passed Congress in 1789. It wasn't ratified by the states till 1992, over 200 years later.
That was not a terribly it took a long time to pass, but it wasn't one of those issues that that was rising to the level of, common discussions among most people. And Congress just essentially didn't set a time limit for it, and they have the power to do that.
The same cannot be said of the pending Equal Rights Amendment. The 2-sentence change says equal rights shall not be denied or abridged because of someone's sex. It was approved by Congress in 1972, and lawmakers gave the states 7 years to ratify it. But it didn't reach the critical threshold until January 2020, when Virginia became the 38th state to approve it, and that was 41 years too late. So it's a controversial debate among scholars whether a current Congress can waive the time limit to salvage the ERA and enshrine it into the Constitution.
The question then becomes, if they reset the timeline, do all of those early states have to go back and re-ratify the amendment, or does it allow some of these later states to, let's say, get in under the wire?
The never-been-used way to pass an amendment is through a national constitutional convention, and calling one requires an application from 2/3 of the states. The first and only constitutional convention ever held was in 1787, and that's how we got the core 7 articles of the U.S. Constitution. Stephanie Liebergen, Newsy, Washington.